Um, Welcome to all those I know and to somebody who I haven't met before. Nice to see you. Welcome. Um, the title of this talk tonight is Making Changes. I wanted to talk about this since we're transitioning in many, many ways. We always are, but we are particularly right now in transition. We can call it a soft transition out of the Zoom days of COVID. We'll continue to be on Sunday nights, we'll continue to be on Zoom until August 1st. And then we will be meeting in person on Sunday nights. We will carry it over Zoom, but we are hoping that people will turn out to be embodied once more. It's a very, very different sensation of practice when we are together in a room. One of the things we can do is we can chant together and hear each other, whereas on Zoom, we can't do that. So we just hear one voice. But there are many, many effects of being together at the Zen Center. And the other thing that are changing is whatever's changing in your life. And I know there are a number of people who are having huge transitions in their life. Partners coming, going, dying, children visiting or leaving, the garden to be tended carefully. I mean, there are just so many things that are coming about now. And emerging from COVID, this very unpredictable experience, because we've never been through it, having been in seclusion in such a major way for so long, coming back into sharing in an embodied way in the world can be very disconcerting, even though welcome. So we have challenges that we may not have anticipated that we're going to be meeting with the ending of the COVID crisis, if in fact it is, and that also remains to be seen. We all have our own form of our own expectations of normalcy, whatever that is. So we have a lot of ideas, and then we meet the real conditions of our inner and outer lives as they actually unfold. And we can watch this happen. And it's a wonderful time to be practicing with our Dharma eye open. Our thinking mind both complicates and facilitates our lives, gets in the way, and also clears the way to taking the next step, to knowing what the next step might be, or any step we take, any action we take. We have both experiences with our thoughts of clear thinking and having judged our situation pretty accurately and going ahead and having the fulfilling experience of things turning in a direction we had anticipated. And also things not going the way we expected and having to deal with our own reactivity about that. Suffering and liberation from suffering relates to what we make of our thoughts, our assumption that that comes with a life of practice, that the more we see clearly the nature of our mind, the more workable our lives are. And this is true to a great extent. And all of you who've been practicing a while can clearly see this. But even in spite of a lifetime of insight and practice, we still encounter difficulties. This is the first noble truth, the truth of difficulties. But nonetheless, even the simple realization that the mind isn't just our thoughts is remarkably freeing. When we see that, oh, the mind is a lot more than thought. And if it's not just our thoughts, well, what else makes up the mind? Awareness. Awareness as it registers as body, sensation, mood, energy qualities, sound, smell, taste, touch, vibration. The idea is that everything makes up the mind. Everything that the mind perceives makes up our experience. Everything contributes to our experience of this moment. Thoughts and everything else that's emerging right now, all together, composes our life, our thought, our mind, body, mind, heart. When we think about making changes, the more aware we are of what makes up our situation, the more apt we are to choose well, to take a skillful step. But even that is no guarantee of getting what we want, getting what we expect, or what we think we need. Because the big picture of everything that comes together in this moment, as this moment, is beyond our knowing in the usual way that we do. Beyond our knowing, so how we relate to this uncertainty, that which we really are aware of and all that we are not aware of, it makes this a very uncertain situation if we're paying attention. The uncertainty about all the mysterious conditions of our life, the ones out of seeing, outside of sense awareness, outside of cognition, is what spiritual practice is all about. This brings us to consider the primacy of impermanence in the Buddha's teaching. Impermanence and uncertainty. They're kind of twin factors. Everything is always changing. You've observed this, I'm sure, according to conditions, and it is all a self-organizing system. Our life is self-organizing. We sometimes have some influence, and is that a tail waving over there, Daria? Oh no, it's a fan. I thought it was the tail of a red cat. So we don't know, but a very, very thin slice of what the conditions are that we're subject to at any moment. So therefore, in the teaching and in this practice, it's really wise to maintain don't know mind at all times. We just do our best. We might even say, don't know mind is wisdom mind. The essential path that unfolds in these circumstances and is never separate from circumstances, though we may not be aware of this essential path, that is the truth of the Dharma, the laws of Dharma, the way things are. Daido Lori's commentary on Dogen's koan, Dongshan's Essential Path, begins, the essential path is wild, unregulated, self-maintaining, intelligent, sacred, and free. Its temple is the wilderness. Its liturgy is the gata of rock and water. The voice of the coyote, a wind song. Its teachings are infinite wonder. Yet, if you direct yourself toward it, you are surely moving away from it. That's the Zen twist. If you try to move toward it, you move away from it. So that brings us back to this phrase, making changes. In a way, who's making change? Me. I'm making a change, and according to what? According to my ideas. So making changes, we do it all the time. We need to do it, but it's only a portion of the situation, and we should be wise about what we think we're doing. The essential path is wild, unregulated, self-maintaining, intelligent, sacred, and free. So last week, Soten and Shanae talked about the wilderness of the mind. So this is referring a bit to the same situation. Self-maintaining or self-organizing suggests that our own plans, our own changes that we get so busy with are only a portion of any outcome. Our own efforts, our own decisions and thoughts about what needs to happen are only a part of the outcomes. Along the daily continuum of holding on to our routines and expectations and letting go, it's wise to keep this in mind. We've had routines that we developed, first of all, when we had to go into seclusion at the beginning of the pandemic. There was a lot of uncertainty about what to do and how to do it. Well, then we all kind of settled into some mode, and now we're emerging from that mode with the same kind of uncertainty, actually. So our routines are disrupted. Our expectations are like, okay, well, what can I expect here? If you've been inoculated, you can expect that most likely you are not going to contract COVID. So making changes, we're always trying to keep what is uncertain in mind. We know that it's not necessarily going to go the way we think. It's not necessarily going to go according to our assessment or our thoughts or our wishes or our judgments of what is and what needs to be. Whatever our assessment is brings along with it expectations and beliefs and interpretations of a situation, people's actions, intentions, etc. That phrase, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. That's from a Robbie Burns poem. Robert Burns, who was the Scottish Shakespeare. And the way that poem, that line, his poem is titled "To a Mouse." To a mouse. What happened was he was mowing his field or something, or cultivating his field, and with his mechanism, he mowed right through a mouse's nest. And that's what gave him the idea for this poem, according to the tale about it. And most of a person's everyday life is kind of like this. Most of our life is like our nest, our mouse's nest. But then the farmer comes along and in her routines and with her intentions, and what happens to our nest? The virus comes along and plows right through our lives. Just as I was talking to Sato Martin, who's a farmer, and just as their season is really getting up and going, their farm manager broke her ankle yesterday. So the best laid plans. So everything needs to be reorganized and figured out. We all have this. We have a big change in the Sangha that recently a member left who was a very important central figure in our Sangha. So now we're reorganizing how we're going to do everything and working with all of the residual upset and disorientation that comes from that. The best laid plans. So the bigger truth that we all contend with in our favorite comfortable nests is determined not so much by our conscious intentions and deliberate choices, what we've gathered to ourselves, but by processes that are put into motion in the larger environment. The Buddha's teachings on impermanence points to how we are all one in this continuous unfolding flow. We're all caught up in the flow. And this is our practice. This becomes our practice, to pay careful attention. So whenever we're experiencing difficulties, we can look at what we're holding on to. What are we holding on to? Where's the nest? What's the nest that's being disrupted? Internally, emotionally, or externally, materially? Our schedule, goes sideways. We think we know what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden, like, it just goes sideways, and we can't do what we thought we could do. So we become aware. We practice with the ideas that we have, and we are often not even aware of ideas that we're holding about something until they get disrupted. And we call this, and we talk a lot about fixed view, that our practice challenges our fixed views about things in our life and who we are. In what way we're holding on to our opinions or our beliefs or our judgments, our aversions, our attractions, or some expectation of how things or somebody else should be, or I should be, right? Should be. Should be is a thought in the mind. And as the sutra says, it's flowers in the air. Our thoughts are flowers in the air. They have no particular reality beyond the flash of the thought. And also whatever they set into motion in as far as further thoughts or words or actions that grow out of our thoughts. Our thoughts, our narrative is constantly woven into how we behave and what we do, what we think we're doing. So change and uncertainty rules. So thus we work on opening our awareness, softening and relaxing. This is why this is the role of meditation. It's an enactment, a pure enactment of presence to whatever is. And it's amazing. I was talking with one of you earlier today about the breath, just the simple practice of following in breath, out breath for a whole period of meditation it's so amazing how each one is complete in its own and does not necessarily have reference to the one before and the one after. But we can have all kinds of thoughts about it as we go. So the breath is just a great basic way to really look at change and flow and our minds, our decisions about it. Oh, I'm not practicing really deeply. Oh, my state of mind is so jumpy. I'm not really. Well, what am I supposed to be experiencing anyway? Whatever goes on in Zazen, it's like endless. It's an endless display of mind. And that's the point, to really see it, to really wise up to how we construct our experience. Conditions are infinite. And one of the conditions that we deal with all the time is the mind and the changing mind. Opening awareness immediately changes everything. So if you get caught up, or when you get caught up, not if, but whenever you get caught up in a reaction, just becoming aware, wow, look at how tense I just got, or how much aversion I'm feeling right now, or whatever it is, immediately opens it to a much broader experience, even without making any change, but other than just being present to what is already. So practice isn't so much a matter of changing or improving the conditions of your inner or outer life, as it is a way of fully embracing and appreciating those conditions and living into our true function in relation to them. And more usually in our very efforts, we tend to create the complications that are part of suffering and dis-ease, restlessness, disappointment. So in building a Zen center, for instance, we encounter the challenges that mark all attempts to seize control according to our ideas. Any of us who've been really involved in the building of this Zen center, which we are going to soon be able to use more fully, we can really see how many ideas we came into this with and how constantly circumstances were changing, and we had to relinquish those ideas and change our approach. And this will continue to happen. It continues. So it's necessary to make our plans and to order and to have routines and all of that. But also to recognize that we are always going to be encountering conditions that we didn't anticipate that change the whole picture that we need to respond to. So we really cultivate one of the transformations in practice is going from judgmental mind to discerning mind. Those would be good words to use. Judgmental is, we do it. I do it, you do it. But getting aware of the suffering that goes with judgment, we have choices about whether we're going to suffer or we're going to use that same condition to discern, okay, what's off base here? And what do I need to relate to more accurately? And that's really changing how we respond to our judgment mind. So all of this is by way of an introduction to a koan, which I'd like to share with you. I'm really appreciating koans these days. And this is one that I have been working with a lot. And the thing about a koan is you just listen to it. Don't worry. Please don't worry. Just listen. Whatever flows over you and through you, that's the effect of the koan. So this is called Dongshan's Essential Path. And this is from the collection of Dogen's 300 koans. When Zen master Zhu Jing of Huayan Monastery was studying with Dongshan, he said, I still cannot see the essential path. I still can't become free of discriminating consciousness. Dongshan said, do you think there is such a path? And Zhu Jing said, no, I do not think there is such a path. And Dongshan said, where did you acquire your discriminating thinking? Huayan said, I'm asking in all seriousness. Pay attention, this really means something to me. Don't put me off, he's saying. Dongshan says, go to a place where there is no grass for a myriad li. Li is a measure of land. Go to a place where there is no grass for a long way. Huayan said, how can I go to a place where there's no grass for a myriad li? Where is there such a place? And Dongshan says, go directly right now. So this is one that it just cuts right through all of the conventional ways of thinking we know what's being referred to. The commentary, which is particularly lovely. So this is Dido Lori, who is a Dharma uncle of mine in the White Plum lineage. The essential path is wild, unregulated, self-maintaining, intelligent, sacred, and free. Its temple is the wilderness. Its liturgy is the gata of rock and water, the voice of the coyote, a wind song. Its teachings are infinite wonder. Yet, if you direct yourself toward it, you are surely moving away from it. This monastic wants to be free and to accord with the nature of things. Dongshan is trying to let him see that in his very effort, he is creating complications. Haven't you heard that in order to live in accord with natural principles and the fundamental nature of things, all intentional efforts must first vanish? The essential path abides in non-action, and yet nothing is left undone. Isn't that a great sentence? The essential path abides in non-action, yet nothing is left undone. So immediately, if you say it abides in non-action, you think, well, wait a minute, I have to wash the dishes. How can I not act and get the dishes washed? But say, if there is no grass for a myriad li, how can you go? Where can you go? Who would go? If you linger at the source, you will miss its radiance. If you chase after shadows, you will become entangled in brambles. What will you do? So this really, this is such koan lingo, which is worth living into, dropping into, and just letting it do its work. But it really sums up what we've been talking about here. What are our true conditions? What is being expressed in the way things are right now? And how can we possibly get past them? How can we avoid the way things are and in its true nature? And how, in the language of Dogen, can we abide in non-action without leaving anything undone? This so beautifully states the truth of our paradoxical life. How do I abide nowhere and also get things done? This is a koan that we take up in our lives, and also as a Sangha. Unless we're willing to take this up as our Sangha koan, we run the risk of building a building while becoming entangled in brambles and ignorant of the radiance that liberates. The living Dharma, wild, unregulated, self-maintaining, intelligent, sacred, and free. This is our challenge. This is our koan. Together in the Sangha and individually in our lives. So, may we all live into it. Thank you. We seem to have lost our Zoom host. See? This is exactly what we've been talking about. So, therefore, I am not set up to put the chant up maybe what we should do is chant the 4 Bodhisattva vows, which most of us know. And the rest of you can just listen closely and consider. So you done?
It's still recording.
Thank you.
I don't know where she went.